I want to talk to y'all about trans joy. And before I do this, I want to thank everyone who's here, including friends and family, as far as Tennessee and Georgia, Illinois and Wisconsin, and even Japan. It is wonderful to be here with you. When I was thinking about what I wanted to prepare for y'all, I was struck by the realization that I didn't have to rely on pre-existing scripts about transness to talk to you. As many of you know, Trans Day of Remembrance is coming up later this month, and I wanted to focus my testimony on trans identity as we look forward to that. So here I was, sitting in my living room, cozy and ready to write, when all of a sudden it struck me, I don't have to explain how I got here or where I came from, my coming out or how I knew. I don't have to prove that I'm normal or just like you, because also, what does that even mean? One of the things I love most about this community is that there are people here who do not feel entitled to a justification or explanation for my existence, something I have always been asked, but never known how to give. Rather, my relationship with gender and sexuality has been, and most likely always will be, a sublime, transcendent, and sacred thing. Likewise, being queer has not been and will not ever be a sad thing for me. In some ways, I feel as though I am at the very beginning of a new generation of people. I was raised my entire life in a completely affirming church. I never believed that queerness was sinful, not once, because it simply was not taught that way. And later, when outside forces at school or in culture challenged my self-worth, I already knew that my bullies were wrong. It was too late. I knew I was loved and there was nothing anyone could do about it. This isn't to say that I didn't struggle, but that I didn't struggle with religion and that I didn't struggle internally. My experience has been the result of the tremendous efforts of those who came before me, queer trailblazers and saints, allies of faith, and members of my own family. And it opened up my eyes to what queer identity can be when not colored by the burden of shame, otherness, or self-doubt. It can be a source of community, indwelling, and chosen family. Queer identity can be more than tolerated, even more than affirmed. It can be celebrated. All that to say, I will not be telling you exactly how I got here, but I can tell you what I do know. And what I know is trans joy. As I stand before you this morning, I am reminded of the many trans people in my life with whom I have found the joy of chosen family and community. I am reminded that the other side of remembrance is celebration. Not just the lives of those we have lost, but the trans folks in our lives today. When I think about the litany of trans saints who have been with me along my journey, many of whom are my closest friends, who I have known since childhood and genuinely consider family. Of course, we have been together through surgeries and coming outs, spent holidays together when birth families failed us, talked deeply about gender and self-actualization. But we have also spent sacred moments around the bonfire in my backyard, talking about Muppets or the discography of Dolly Parton, or listening to Hannah talk about Irish American history, or absolutely nothing at all. I often have these profound moments of realization that I never thought some of us would make it to 18. To have my childhood friends with me at 25 is truly a miracle. So what do I tell you about being trans? Do I talk about the tenderness of memory? Do I recount getting dressed up for a gay-straight alliance party in the basement of a Lutheran church during my junior year of high school, hoping to impress my crush, only for him to kiss a girl from another school? The bittersweet teenage agony of thinking he could never like a guy like me. The hilarious reality that that boy, that teenage crush, is now my fiance. I could tell 1,000 stories of the first time I saw my friend Renee, whose name means rebirth, in a dress, the way she has blossomed into a vivacious and gregarious woman, how she was so beautiful to me that I cried tears of joy. The story of the first time I slept in the guys' dorm at camp and we all did face masks and painted our nails. Helping my friend Sylvia choose her name, being the first trans person another trans person has ever met other than themselves, the profound loneliness, but the community that comes out of loneliness. I told some of you this past week that I'm going to be a godfather, and I am absolutely beside myself. Did I tell you that this beautiful young couple, the couple who are expecting, my first friends to have a baby, are also two sweet husbands whose wedding Alex officiated 3 summers ago? Despite all the concerns about my friend's safety and well-being in a society that hates trans people, when I last saw this sweet little dude who's going to be a dad, it felt like the most natural and joyous and sacred thing in the world. If testimony involves where we see God in our lives, then this is where I see God most of all, in the faces of those who walk the road with me. But joy is also present in my own life, not just where it intersects with others. Living with authenticity has brought me closer to others, yes, but also to who God is calling me to be. I have always said that being trans is a gift, not a burden. In my experience, being trans is wonderful and life-giving, but society is what makes it difficult. I wouldn't change my experiences, but rather, I wish I could make the context more affirming. But even so, I have always believed transness itself is sacred. From my renaming liturgy in 2018 to belated "it's a boy" jokes from friends' moms, to just feeling increasingly at peace with myself and my place in the world, this journey has been beautiful for me. I still find joy in telling people I chose the name Ezra because it means helper. I find that as I grow, I become increasingly open to educating others and fielding well-meant but poorly worded questions for those who just don't have the energy for it today. My life is rich with love, opportunities to share knowledge, and times where I can simply rest. People ask me what they can do for trans people. This is different from person to person, but I always want to say that beyond the practical, celebrate the people in your life in all their profound complexities. Invite others and yourself into the radical act of not self-explaining, telling stories of the past not centered around suffering. Do not assume my story is one of great sadness or that struggle is mutually exclusive to joy. Here is where I see the truth of the cross in my own life, horror and love together in one beautiful moment. And let me address also the horror. Let me tell you what it is like for my life to be reduced to the saddest version of itself instead of the life-giving reality. It is awful and it is hopeless, but it is false. For all the reasons I have listed above, I promise you, my life has been made richer for me being made trans. This is not to say that I have not struggled, and of course, this is only my story about how I feel. We all still very much live in a world that hates trans people and wishes us violence. But queer community and life is a light in the darkness, a light no darkness can ever fully extinguish. And I will forever resist a narrative that says that my life, that human life, can be relegated merely to suffering. It is not biblical, it is not holy, and it is not an ethical way to see humanity. And therefore, I denounce it in my own life. All this and more I want to share with you. Even when I feel nervous, I want to step into community and share openly the joys of my trans existence. There are things you'd never know about the complexities of other people without being invited in. This is true of everyone, but I feel this astutely as a trans person. Sometimes I feel weird saying certain things, but truth-telling is worth it. Letting people in allows others to feel more safe with vulnerability. Shame dies in the light of truth, and individual relationships are a great place to start. This, more than anything, is the important news I want to share with you today. I want to share life with you. I long to share life with you. Not just prepackaged rhetoric, but real, messy, important, imperfect, beautiful life. And I thank you for giving me the chance to do so today.